Good afternoon to everyone who has joined us. I am your host today. Welcome to today's webinar on evidence-based hiring. I am your host, Marita Mutemi, and I am the CEO and founder of Peleza. And I'm very, very excited to have this conversation with you today. I think I've looked forward to this webinar, right? It's a first of many. And thank you for trusting us with this conversation. And please, as we begin, we look forward to having a very engaging session. So please go ahead and engage with us in the chat. We want to hear you. We want to hear what you have to say. This is a conversation amongst all of us. And yeah, so welcome. To move forward, a bit of just housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded. So I know in alignment with data protection, we want to just make sure that everyone is aware that this webinar is being recorded. As we proceed, you can also submit your questions. You can submit your experiences in our chats, right? In the chat box, we'll be able to see them and also address them as we go on. And that can be at any time, right? So feel free. This is our platform. And we're going to start with a quick poll. And on our poll today, what we want to hear from you, want to understand, I will read it out, but it should appear on your screens. And what we want to ask today is, what is the biggest hiring challenge your company is facing today? That is that one thing that keeps showing up, no matter how good your processes have been. And we want to know, is it people are good on paper, but underperforming reality? Or are we getting people who have the right skills, but the wrong character? Or is it a lack of objective data-driven tools that are helping us to determine performance or behavior? Is it pressure to fill these roles very quickly? Or is it too much time wasted on shortlisting? I will allow for some time just to, for us to hear from you from the polls. Well, as you continue voting, we'll just continue to have the poll up. Thanks for voting. Please keep voting. We will reveal the results towards the end of this session, right? And what I want to bring out is part of the things that we encounter on a day-to-day when it comes to recruitment is basically boils down to evidence-based hiring. And that's why we are having this conversation today. People are the heartbeat of every organization. At the core of any organization is people. Yet every company in Africa that we know, right, is bleeding money. And we're not bleeding from a perspective of, competition or losing money in one way or the other, but it's sometimes because of the decisions that we're making at the point of hiring. Sometimes I tend to look at HR as a guardian. I don't know whether we've watched, a movie called Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And I feel like companies are the galaxy and HRs are the ones who are protecting who's coming in and who's, not allowed to come in. And for that, the question then is, what are we basing our hiring decisions on, right? Are we basing them on intuition, on gut feeling, or on data? When you think about it, we make multi-million shillings and dollar decisions every day as we're hiring people, right? Because at the end of the day, they're being paid, right? And as we're making these decisions, right, we're making we are relying on CVs, right? CVs that a candidate wrote. we are relying on interviews that when I come for that interview, I am very well prepared. So in 1 hour, I am meant to decide whether this candidate is a good fit for this role and for organization. And then lastly, we have references. So we make reference calls. And these are references that candidates have provided us. And based on that, we are meant again to make the decision and decide, oh, are you a good fit for organization? And then 3 months, 2-3 months down the line, you start noticing something different. There's performance gaps. Yeah, there is culture misfits or integrity issues. But how are you meant to check that out during an interview is the question that we are trying to answer today. And then what happens next is if they're not a fit for your organization, then you have to go back and redo this process. And this process can be daunting. I can literally hear Sheila breathe in and out, right? Because the process can be daunting, right? You have to go back, post the job, short lists, onboard again, retrain. And at this point, you're just holding your breath and hoping that, hey, I hope this time round, this one works out, right? So today we are here to talk about that, right? Hiring based on the tools that we have known, whether traditional or, modern tools that are now coming in as well. We are here to have this conversation, right? And see what is then the best way forward, that's it, right? We want to see how do we begin to uncover truth and how do we begin to use data in our hiring decisions, right? To see from a perspective of performance, culture, integrity, etc. And that's it. With me, I have an amazing panel of leaders and experts who join me today to have this conversation and to take us deeper, right? I am joined by an incredible team who truly live and breathe the realities of hiring, performance, and culture on a day-to-day. HRs who bring depth, experience, and heart to this topic. So these voices have experience, they have insight and practical wisdom. So allow me to introduce, just quickly. Allow me to first introduce Sheila. Sheila is on my left hand. Sheila brings a wealth of experience as a seasoned HR professional and people management strategist, known for her commitment to building inclusive workplace cultures and driving talent development. With a strong track record in aligning organizational goals with human-centered leadership practices, I believe she's definitely earned the right to be on this panel. Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you for having me.
Please, you can say a few words and just tell us as well something that we don't know about you that I've not been able to read through the introduction, and maybe just a fun fact as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and excited to be part of this good conversation because this is the reality of our everyday today for HR. Fun fact about me is that I love music. I'm that noisemaker. In fact, I'm that HR who plays music in the office. Yeah, I love music.
What are you currently listening to?
Christmas collection by Boys to Men. That is on repeat.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Great to have you, Sheila. On my right, I am joined by John. John is a seasoned HR business executive and global talent advisor, bringing deep expertise in organizational culture, talent strategy, and people-centric leadership. Under his stewardship, his team earned recognition as a top employer in Kenya 4 years in a row. John, we want to hear about that, truly, right? That is really amazing, and we commend you for that. So welcome, John.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please tell us, again, something that we don't know about you, one, and also this is an amazing thing to be able to accomplish.
I studied a background in psychology in school.
Okay.
And also I have a degree in psychology. Fun fact, I would say I'm into fitness.
Okay.
Yeah, I love, and I think it's the key to a great mindset at times. It's a source of being physically fit. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. That's good to hear. After that, we'll ask John to do some flexing for us after this. So
Fitness is not about muscles.
I hear you. I hear you.
But I have the mental muscle.
I
Yes.
see. I
Yes.
see. Gotcha. All right. And lastly, we're joined with Joy, our very own from Peleza. Joy is our Director of People and Operations at Peleza with 10 years of hands-on experience leading teams and strengthening organizational operations. Her blend of operational rigor and people focused leadership continues to shape the heartbeat of how Peleza works, grows, and delivers. Joy, karibu
Thank
to
you.
this conversation.
Thank you
So
for having me.
please do share. We want to hear more about Joy.
I think you've done a very worthy introduction. I'm not sure there's more to add. About a fun fact, I'm not sure how fun it is, but I really love animals. I'm obsessed with animals. I have adopted 2 cats at our office, so that is one thing I look forward to when I go to work. So yeah, I really love animals.
What happens over the weekend?
Oh yeah.
That's one question that.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Okay.
All right. So we're glad to have all of you with us today. Allow me to speak to some statistics and data. So 94% of businesses are affected by employee thefts. 54% of CVs contain inaccuracies, like little embellishments here and there, right? Internal fraud causes companies a loss of 5% of revenue every year. That's significant. And a toxic hire costs a company up to 10x more than a wrong skill hire. And lastly, we are in the age of AI. And AI can now generate perfect CVs and interview responses. And sometimes the question I ask myself is, just a rhetoric question that I ask myself is, are we hiring in a world that has already, are we hiring using tools, but in a world that has already, in a world that things have already changed? Yeah, and I'd like to first start this conversation from there. So let me start with you, John. What is the most painful hiring challenge or mistake? I know sometimes I don't like saying mistake because I figure mistakes are, you learn from them, right? But for lack of a better word, allow me to use that, right? So what's the most painful hiring mistake you've ever made? And more importantly, what did you miss? And what did you learn from it?
Okay. I think this is where we are calling for vulnerability. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's
And
what
we
we
need to
want.
change this.
We want authenticity in this conversation.
All
Yeah.
right. I think the most painful one that comes top of mind for me is one which I can classify as emotional intelligence. There was a mismatch where, as part of the panel, I could tell that the candidate had a higher emotional intelligence than the manager who was trying to recruit.
I see.
And you can imagine how that conversation went, given that at times, I don't know if anybody has experienced here where we find there are managers who want to hire people who are less smarter than them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that circumstance, definitely you will find candidates who are really good at what they do. So the younger side of me, I didn't quite catch that early,
see, I
very
see.
early, and flowing with it and moving on down the line, looking at that candidate, it was a complete disaster. Disaster from a culture perspective, disaster from a fit perspective. There was a complete, what do you call it, impact on even the larger team, which gave me a very critical lesson at times. As much as we are hiring for a position, do you have the team in mind?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get,
true.
because at times, just think of some of these football clubs when they are recruiting. They're either looking for a very good attacker, midfielder, or defender, or it's what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Because at times we tend to look for people who have all the three qualities. You're either you're both the attacker, the defender, and everything else, as opposed to really looking at first being able to have that conversation. I came to learn from that perspective. 90% of the work is done preparing, because if you don't spend time preparing for that interview, you'll get everything else wrong. But also at times, your preparation might get you some degree. It lessens the probability of getting it wrong. That really for me was a critical lesson. Every time before I enter an interview, I need to know what role are we hiring, what is the critical. I need to understand the dynamics of the team, because at times I always encourage my leadership that let's upgrade. If somebody resigns, upgrade from the person who left. Don't let's not hire from a perspective of just replacing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And how long did it take for that to be discovered, right? So at that point during the interview, it was noted. I want to believe we proceeded with the person.
Correct.
And they joined the company.
Yes.
Then how long did it take for you then to realize that this is not going to pan out?
Day one.
Day one.
Day one.
Oh, wow.
Week one.
Okay.
Week one, because they can't fit completely. Yeah, because a right fit is not a right fit from the onset. You know, and it can be a right fit from a perspective of the team,
Yeah.
from a perspective of the role, from a perspective of the culture of the business, skills also. I agree, because if you don't have the right skills, you know, if you're building this and you don't have the skills to build this, you literally can't do the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Oh, wow. That sets out a very good and interesting place to begin. So, onto the audience, right? Like I said, this is our conversation. Would really love to hear from you as well. Please tell us, what has that been like on your end? What's that hiring mistake that taught you the biggest lesson? Please do share on the chat. John, as a follow-up to that question, right? In your experience as well, we do hiring decisions based on CVs, interviews, reference calls. There's definitely a hiring process to it. Where do we typically go wrong?
I think if you look at it from a process perspective, you will get it wrong. I think you need to look at it from an entire value chain perspective,
Okay.
from experience, because at times because the key thing that you're looking for is your talent, the real talent out there. And real talent is not looking for a job. Real talent also will not spend time using AI to really fancy their CV. So at times it's like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yes.
It's really hard, but if you are really keen in knowing how to look for it, because our softwares in recruitments, we all know at the back end, it has AI by itself in proofreading.
Yeah.
Yes.
The way we've said, do this. But I think there's a smarter way in terms of you can tweak all that in the back end for you to be able to really know where to focus to.
Yeah.
So number one for me, a real talent has three components. There's a component of the mindset.
Okay.
I think from the other part is the heart, and the other part is the tools. So when I talk about minds, I'll talk about probably their emotional intelligence or what other talent that they have. Their heart will also talk about personality because it's important. That's where the team comes in.
Yeah.
So many, you can either be born with it or you acquire it as you grow up, so on and so forth, and emotional intelligence, so on. Number 3 would be now the tools are more of the experiences that you have.
Yeah.
Either experience or skills that you have that we tend to rely on when you're doing the job. So majority of us in organizations, we tend to start with the tools first, which is the CV.
Yes.
But forgetting the fact that, again, we focus on the CV and we look at that and we tend to base 90% of our decisions on that. All right. Again, remember, if you forget that there's a bigger team to think around with, that's when you get to introduce other aspects to it. Like you need to, during the interviews, doing competency-based interviews, or they keep on changing. There are so many, depending on which organizations you are in, you can use whichever approach that really suits your business. Also, you look at it from a perspective of also personality also. Like, do they have gut? Such things, intricacies can be based on judgment, and judgment based on the quality of questions you ask. Because if you ask poor quality questions, don't expect fantastic answers.
Yes.
So and I've come from an interview where one of the panelists is saying that candidate was boring, but the questions you are asking,
I see.
so it narrows down to how you do it, and it's the effort that you put in. If you really don't put in effort, and really need to know, what am I looking for out of those 3, you get, because if the 3 needs too much, because at times, are you recruiting for talent and then you train for skills, or are you looking for skills and then you train talent? Can you really
Yes.
train talent?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
yeah,
think you can. I don't
absolutely.
think you can train talent. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Sheila, have you ever hired a candidate who aced the interview? They were amazing, charismatic, impressive, everything that you were looking for. But then they, again, for lack of a better word, failed at the job. Have you had such an experience?
Yes, that one has happened in the past, and we're all reflecting and asking ourselves, where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
Or what really happened? Because this person was so good in the interviews, they convinced all of us. The interviews, you walk in and you walk out knowing who you're really giving the job.
Correct.
Just based off the questions you've asked, how they were answered, how this person was composed and all that. And then, yes, they come in. How is the onboarding? Did we get it right? How is the culture? Where are they coming from? Most times we tend to take in account the experience someone is bringing and overseeing or overlooking where they're coming from and that work environment. So
Yeah.
someone comes in, yes, you've done the onboarding, but then they take a long time to fit in. Yes, they look like they want to do the job. They can't do the job, but they're asking themselves, have I come to the right environment? There's also the bit of the team, like what John was sharing, the issue of the team. Did they gel in with the team? Well, they're coming to which team? Are they coming to a team where someone was saying, I ought to have been given that job? So there's deliberate sabotage. Also, they've said they want to hire and bring in someone from outside. So I'm going to make that person job harder or not care at all. In as much as, yes, we're acknowledging that, yes, we are hiring a good talent, but have they worked in this organization before? No. So they are coming to also learn. So how are we also supporting this person to settle and also to learn quickly so that they're able to thrive? Because ideally, by the time you're sitting for interviews, let's say there are organizations that do almost 2-3 interviews, the entire system is convinced that this person is the right person to be in this organization. But then what are these other things that we're putting in place to ensure that when this person comes, they're just going to thrive? So that is what I learned from this process. Yes.
And just to think around that, I think one of the critical things I've learned is always take notes during interviews.
Yeah.
And just compare. If you got a good candidate and you go back to the notes, you'll be able to see there's some difference in terms of how you probably did interviews. I've come to see that really helps in terms of just after really not getting it right, just getting to understand where did it start raining? As in, what in what areas do I really need to look into in terms of getting it right going forward? Or
Interesting.
Yeah. Back to you, Sheila, again. So we know interviews can be rehearsed, they can be coached. They can also be influenced by personality rather than competence.
True.
In your view, what do interviews fail to reveal about a candidate, especially in things that matter, which are around performance, culture, and integrity or work ethic?
One is like what you've mentioned, the issue of culture. You can't tell from an interview how that person will quickly settle in or if they will settle at all. So that one becomes a major challenge. The other issues are issues of integrity. These CVs, the way you said it, we are the ones writing these CVs.
Yeah.
Of course, we are putting our best foot forward.
Of course.
No one wants to say I did X, Y, and Z. I didn't perform well in this organization because of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So most times it's issues of integrity. We can't tell. We are just going based of what you've indicated. And of course, through the screening, we're like, this is the perfect one. Or this is what we think we're looking for. So there's also the issue of performance.
Yes.
We can't really tell. Other than, of course, the indicators you've put in the CV that, yes, I'm a top performer, I can be able to do this job. So issues like that are the ones that, of course, affect this entire process.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because then the question then goes, how do we then begin to screen for this? Right? Because if at an interview level we can't, then how then do we begin to, look into this? And we'll come into a session where we discuss about that. For now, let me just allow it to sit there. Joy,
Yes.
CVs, interviews, reference calls, have they been really the backbone of hiring?
Yeah.
Right? And this has been for decades, right? Tried, tested, used over time. In this day and age, I know we still sort of consider them traditional tools, because indeed they are traditional. The world has changed, things are changing. In your view, at what point are they still of value, right? And at what point do they now begin to fail us? Yeah. They say old is gold.
Yeah, and it is, right? Up to a certain degree. And I still think they have a place to play, a very big role still. Because a CV, for example, that's the first introduction you get to a potential employee, a job seeker. Sort of, that is what tells you about them. And yes, the truth is, it's how they've portrayed themselves. But without that, then you don't have an in into this candidate in terms of before you even get to the interview process, before you get into the shortlisting, you want to have an idea of who this person is, regardless of, we know you'll only put your best foot forward and say the very good things about yourself. But we cannot completely eliminate them, because they're the ones that sort of help you start narrowing down, and you're able to now sieve and say, okay, I have a pool of, let's say, 1,000 people. What are you sieving? And even when you're using systems, right? When you're using the recruitment systems and ATS, right? They have filters. And what are they filtering? It's that CV. So there are things you're sort of picking up and say, oh, this is good. This is what we're looking for. This works. So they still have a role to play. But I think what we're now saying is only to a certain degree. And I think they only play that initial role of helping you sieve down and trickle down into getting a pool of candidates you feel you're strong in. Because now from there, then you need to introduce other tools to help guide your process. You cannot just depend on a CV or a reference check to make a decision. They will fail, because I will not, as you say, I'll not put things about myself that I know would jeopardize me getting the opportunity. I'll only say good things. I'll only put the referees who... I don't think anyone has ever put a referee who would not say stellar things about. And, it makes you wonder, everyone will say good things about everyone. If you're a referee, you already know it's performed. Someone will call you This is what you need to say about me. This is an uncle, a cousin, a father. So they up to that point, then all these tools fail. And I think that's the conversation we are having into what then do you introduce. You said, is it 54% of CVs have embellishments?
Yeah.
That's a staggering number. Already, that means the tool you're using to help you decide on the candidate, there is a very high chance that it's already skewed. So so when you now get that pool, you're sort of already saying, in this pool, I know there's a probability that more than half of those I've selected may have embellishments, may have some issues. Then the question is, what do you now introduce? And that's where I believe you want to introduce screenings, different types of screenings, your case studies, your scenario based interviews, your whatever screenings, verifications, because you sort of need to verify. A CV is what I've said about myself, but then how do you actually authenticate and attest that what I've said about myself is actually true?
And actually, just to speak into that, I've seen that a lot in interviews. Where when you look at the CV and the candidate seated right across,
Yeah.
my goodness, it's worlds apart.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the CV, you're like, oh, I need coffee on
Wow.
this. This is impressive.
Yeah.
But when they start talking, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, all right. It's 30 minutes in. Do you have any questions for us?
Thank you. We'll get back to you.
We'll get
Don't
back
call us,
to
we'll
you.
call
Well, it's an interesting thing that you've said, Joy, because for references, even when you put up as a professional reference, I don't know whether you've encountered this, where candidates are even, I as a professional reference will tell the candidate, please send me what it is you want me to say about you. So at the end of the day, it's not very objective. It's sort of skewed in a way, right? Because I'll put up exactly what you want me to say about you. Joy, as a follow-up to that, so at what point then do we begin relying on data? And I guess more specifically on verified data
Yeah.
and behavioral evidence to make hiring decisions. Because if we are saying the tools that we've been using
Yeah.
are skewed, or we are not able to 100% rely on them, and we know we are in a world of now it's about data, right? And
Yeah.
data is really helping us to perceive and know even from a behavioral perspective. But then yes, at what point do we begin to?
I would actually say before you even begin the recruitment. Because you really need to rethink how you're doing your recruitment, because ideally how a lot of us have done it is, you do your interview, you do the announcements, right? You get your people, you save, you do the interviews, and then at the very last stage, when you now want to decide, is when you're now sort of bringing in the tools and other ways of reasoning. Sort of you're using it to make a decision between candidates A and B. So sort of you've ended up with candidates. It doesn't mean they're the best, depending on the tools you've used. Probably they're not the best because at that point you've not introduced any tools. But then you have two really good people, and then you're asking yourself, so who do I choose? And a lot of different companies and HRs will use a lot of different things, sadly, including salary expectations, right? Years of experience, location, and other things that we'd consider bias. So I think as a HR, even before you begin the recruitment, you need to ask yourself, at every stage of the process, what can I introduce to help me make the best decision? For example, from the initial job announcement, even when you're making that job announcement, depending on what tool you use, it'll influence the quality of candidates you get, right? When it gets to the sorting, how are you doing your sorting? You may still be relying on manual sorting, been there, done that, right? You have 1,000. How do you genuinely in a quality way, sort through 1,000 CVs? You're a human being.
Oh, 10,000.
Thank you. Right? 1,000 is child's play, right? And how do you actually get the best of the best, right? So then are you also implementing tools and systems that help you not only select, but can you be able to set the criteria? Because some of those tools also have biases, right? You've heard about ATS biases. So are you able to select and say, this is the criteria I'm looking for? If a CV is thrown out because it has color blue and another one has color black and the font is right? You may, as you said, you may end up losing very good candidates because very good candidates may not be taking time to put their images on a CV and so on. So at that stage, have you considered a tool you can utilize after, even before the interview? And I know we've done that, we've tried that at Peleza. Before the interview, how do you prepare for these candidates? Depending on the role, sometimes you may want them to work, let's say, on a case study before they even show up for the interview. Again, I feel like interviews as such, it's like a date, right? I'm going to come and we're going to have a cup of something and I'm going to wow you, and everyone lives there. Most of them that go, when you live there, you're like, oh, this is the person. And then someone else comes like, oh, no, not that one, this one. So for you to actually be able to make a conscious decision, you may want to do another level of sifting where maybe there are case studies, there's some things you want them to work on. So that when they're coming to the interview, if you're looking, for example, for skills, I will be checking. You need to demonstrate those skills during the interview. I can't wait for 3 months when I've hired you to actually test and see, oh, you're actually a problem solver. By that time, you can imagine the repercussions from a company perspective. Then you've done in the interview, and then again, I think objectivity in the interview. You've said something very interesting, like, are you taking notes during what are you relying on? Gut feeling is good, right? But it's not enough. So is there any other way you can rely on? Are there other forms or ways of doing interviews you can rely on? And I know these days they range from phone interviews, you have your virtual. I still think one-on-one interviews play a very big role. As much as they're old school, I don't think you can negate their importance. And then you have someone and they look good, but then before you place them, my CV says, I worked at this company, as a manager, I made this much money. Those are my ones. Do you actually go back, right? And that's why you test my skills. Do you actually go back to my previous employers and actually sort of you're clarifying, right? So this person, they said they could do this. To what degree? What are their strengths? What are their areas of improvement? And when you're doing these verifications, you're not looking for a reason to not hire the candidate. You're actually looking for a reason to hire the right person. So you're looking for those green flags, those good things that are sticking out. So then, for example, at that place, you're doing a verification. Then there's information you get. It doesn't mean all information. You sort of also are picking in the report that I've received, what stands out, what is important to me. For example, Sheila, you mentioned something very important in terms of, culture. Someone may be a performer. So from the previous employers, you can see the skills, right? This is a superstar. But maybe from an attitude perspective, you can already pick up flags. They have issues playing well in a team. And maybe teamwork is big for you. Then there you're able to sort of make a decision that it's relying on data. It's not just, oh, I feel this, or I saw this person, I think they're good. It's, if someone came in and asked you, why did you hire this person? Whatever response you give, would it be an emotional response or would it be a data-driven response? I think that's very important to differentiate.
All right, let's talk AI. All right, technology is moving, technology is changing, and AI is really changing the way we work.
Yeah.
Sheila, from your perspective, where is AI genuinely helping us in general HR and recruitment, and where do you feel like it's also complicating the hiring process?
Oh, AI is a blessing.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
In Africa, we've taken long to embrace it. It's actually had someone saying that the only AI we know is ChatGPT, and some of us are embracing it now, whereas it's been there for years. For years.
Yeah.
So it's clearly showing that there's a paradigm shift, and we need to go there. So AI has really influenced HR. For those who've accepted and have decided that they need to be on top of things, of course, metrics driven. It is, of course, assisting us with a lot of that. For recruitment, I would say removing it. Okay, AI, it's a work in progress for most of us. We're also just learning how to lean on it, because for the longest we've been thinking traditional is good. So, of course, improved processes that are driven, or what we call metrics decision making. That one is, those are the two things that I can say top of mind that are really, really helpful where AI is concerned. Yes, because you're moving from just feelings, intuition, of course, the bias of human beings. I feel like this, or I saw this and I feel like it's a red flag, or things like that. To now, there's this is performance. This is what it's saying. This is what this data is speaking into. And then how can we leverage on that strategically? Yes. So where it's complicated is now the things of we're using AI to make our CVs. So, of course, sometimes even putting the job description of the job interview you want to apply. So it's already indicating to you these are some of the important things. Things like ATS, you're being told there are keywords that you need to put, that as long as you have those keywords, you're going to be shortlisted based of that. So of course there's that, and yeah, but we just have to embrace and see how it works for us. The way John and you're saying that there are tools and things that we can use to our advantage. Yes.
Right. Okay, so you, John, how is that
I think
affected or affected?
I think AI is there for us to make our work easier.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, I've seen, I think the last 15 years, I've seen the way bundles of job applications are increasingly increasing.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, the number of university graduates are also increasing.
Yes.
So 10 years ago, you used to get 500, 400 applications, graduating to 1,000, 2,000. Now it's voluminous. It's at times there are roles you get 20,000, 30,000. So AI is I don't think AI is there to replace our jobs or replace the role of a recruiter, but it's a tool. If you look at it, if you accept it, I like the way Sheila said it, so long as you accept it, now it can become a tool that you use to make your work easier.
Yeah.
And how you make your work easier is now being able to understand the AI itself, because also an AI written CV,
Yeah.
you can really tell.
True.
You can easily tell it because there's consistency in the words. We all know the words. We know all those things, so it's easy to tell that. But also, does that make a candidate a bad candidate?
No.
I don't think so. So again, also the effort that the candidates has put in also really matters, because if somebody is putting their best foot forward, I don't think we can fault them for that.
Yeah.
But also there's a fine line on plagiarism and
Yeah.
all those other things where you say you are this fantastic, and then when you come to the interview, who? So at times it narrows down to how you use it, because in the back end there's a way in which you can equally set it up to really, so that you know how to focus on target. Instead of targeting or focusing on the 10,000, how can I target on the 20 or 30 CVs, so that you can come with a clear mind and be able to really sieve.
Yeah.
So there are many ways in which we can use AI depending on the business that you are in, because your recruitment strategy needs to really inform how you are using AI, basically.
Perhaps you can just paint a picture for us on what are those ways we can use it in, because I've heard the conversation actually just yesterday, and someone was telling me, so they've come up with a tool for AI that helps to screen, candidates. And they're telling me that, part of the challenges they're having is HRs are stuck in our ways. We are stuck in our manual ways that we have always known, right? So we're not embracing these tools as they're coming to help us. So I think a question is, what would you say to that very traditional, for lack of a better word, right, that we are still stuck in our ways? And how can we begin to use some of these tools? In what ways does it help us?
I think it narrows down to the data and your focus. I like what she said in terms of what is what are you looking for in terms of from a business perspective, because that's where it starts. Because number one, if you are focused on recruiting on a role, then number one, you'll be narrowed to the role. If you are focused on the team, then there's also the part of the team, and also there's a part of the culture. So there's a human element to it. Still, it can't be released fully to AI because there's a certain element of dynamics within the team that you're looking at.
Yes.
So it's important for the HR and the hiring manager to really be knowledgeable, and both of you need to agree and gel, so that by the time you are moving, it's like a dance. You're moving towards the same direction and not apart. So you really need to understand the team first. In this team, we have this and these types of personalities, so we need to bring in this so that we complete this team dynamics that we are seeing here. Because at times we can be clouded by also our cognitive biases in terms of when we are doing interviews, because at times you try and recruit yourself.
Yeah.
True.
What
You
should
try
I
and
be?
recruit yourself
Yeah.
because you believe in people who are probably empathetic. You want to hire empathetic people, so on and so forth. But back to AI in terms of a tool, for me, those are the areas that it can't see.
Yeah.
So the style of interviews, be it competency, be it star, be it whatever type that fits your business.
Yeah.
Because I've come to appreciate, having worked in different industries, I've learned one thing: it's not a one shoe fits all. Okay. First, you really need to internalize the business strategy.
Correct.
Sure.
You need to internalize your culture. If you don't understand those two, then it's like a blind person trying to cross a busy highway. Yeah, you always get a miss, even with AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's true, the tools are not replacing at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
They're not replacing our thought process. We actually work with them, and then at the end of the day, we also have to differentiate between what do you delegate to these tools and what do you, still have to take on,
Yeah.
right? Because there's also the other divide where now there's over reliance on AI.
Yeah, there's a fine balance between the two, because AI comes in at the first stage
Yeah.
to see, but also there's a fine, you really need to make the tool work for you,
Yeah.
but not the other way around where you're working for the tool.
Correct.
That's the other thing. Have you ever had a HR system where you feel like this system does not meet the needs of the business in which you're serving? Then you wonder, how did we get this tool?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, true.
Same thing.
Okay. Joy, do you want to add on to that?
Maybe just to chime in, especially on what John has said, I think if we as companies, right, and industries and HRs at that rate are adapting AI, then we can't fault the candidates or job seekers for doing the same. Because think about it, you are using AI to make your work easier.
Correct.
If someone feels like I can use, and again, think about a job seeker, how many maybe job applications they do, right, in a day, in a month. Maybe they need a cover letter, they need a CV. It's a lot that's required from them, right?
Correct.
And then we want them to sit and sort of work on this by themselves. Yet we're all talking about ChatGPT, we're talking about Gemini, there are all these tools to help. So for me, I feel like you as a HR, you can't fault on that, because I do believe it does take a bit of effort to even making
Correct.
a CV with AI look good, right? And again, especially being Kenyans, right? And one of our disadvantages is because a lot of us of the Kenyans are the ones who participated in quality checking things like ChatGPT. How you'd normally write, like how you've just been taught, the way we've studied English, for example, it's actually really, it looks like AI. When you do an application, even when you don't use ChatGPT and you put it in, a detector, it will say it's AI, because we sort of, that is the language, and that's how we've sort of done our education system and all that. So for me, I feel you cannot fault it. So the question is, yes, assume all those 1,000 CVs are AI generated. Well and good. You sieve. Now, after that, that's another work. So you cannot use that as a sort of disqualifying factor. It's for you to also ask yourself, if the job seekers are using AI, then me as a HR, what tools can I use to get the best person out of all these pleasantly looking CVs and applications? So there's also, on our end, there's also that sort of call to action on our end. So that we're also not lazy. Oh, this looks like AI, and you put it aside. But then your company embraces AI. So if you also want to bring in someone who's open, if you do that, is right. Again, different have strokes for different folks. If you embrace AI, you also want to bring in people who are open-minded and willing to challenge the status quo. Yeah.
Thank you. Sheila, do you believe in a future where AI someday will be able to predict a candidate's performance?
I do.
Do you foresee that?
It's
How?
going to happen eventually, but of course it's based on what we feed it. Like we've said, it's a tool.
Yeah.
What do we require from it? And then channeling efforts to ensure that that is what it gives out. Is it able to pick performance indicators, for example, from a CV? Can it predict that based on this and this, this candidate will be able to maybe ace the role or something like that? So yes, a future like that is going to happen. But how long that takes is what we don't know.
Yeah.
But we can prepare for that.
I think it's like a question of the question of the chicken and the egg, which one comes first?
Yes.
I think that's an age-long debate, because also AI is also dependent on data, availability of data, how much of your data is out there.
Yeah.
That's why in a lot of these social medias, these free things that we are giving, which is our data, is what is really being used at the back end. So I'm not sure about AI making the decision, but I think there will still be a human element in decision making. But I think what will be available is data which was not available before, will be available then.
Yeah.
So I think that data may be able to probably give you some patterns of behavior,
Yeah.
because you're saying human beings are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
So we will be able to predict certain habits, probably. Decision making, it might. Yeah, you may be right. If you think about it, you may be right, depending on the role.
I would use an example of ChatGPT. And I'm in a group that guys are embracing AI, and you're just having conversations on that. And someone was saying, I've been asking AI about myself, but of course you're also feeding AI on yourself, and you're having conversations. And then it's of course telling you today you are feeling like this. And then someone is wondering, for how long have I been speaking into these things for it to know that I'm feeling like this, and this is how I'm likely to behave, and things like that. So that is already an indicator of, like what John is saying, we are feeding it and then it's returning the same back to us.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and of course there are questions she had asked ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT had summarized and told her, now you are, this is what is happening, and this is because of this. I may not be able to share the details, but that could tell that, this AI tools getting information from us and then converting it into ways in which it can help us. Yeah, because I was very wild when it was telling her you're feeling like this because of this, and because you are like this. Oh, that was very interesting. So of course it's what we will feed it for that to work for us.
Yeah.
But I know we're not consciously thinking we are feeding AI. We're thinking of it as a tool that will come and do the magic for us, whereas it is us who are going to set like parameters, for example, for a role. What is it that we want that is key? And then feeding it and telling it, using criteria that we want this, and then it's able to pick it from there.
And I think when you're speaking, I think it's about, and I agree with you, it's about how do we use AI to become a much more better and more effective recruiter, so that you can, now the time that you are spending on shortlisting, now I'll spend it on what? Now, that's a new conversation altogether. New territory. Now, if it's doing this for you, now what, this other time, what will I be doing to just geared towards that good candidate that I'm really looking for? I think, let's see. Let's see how it comes.
Okay. Joy, we've just spoken about AI generated CVs and cover letters and much more, including, now interviews, etc. How, as HRs, do we begin to differentiate between real competencies and AI polish?
Wow, that's an interesting question, right? Because as you said, if consistently, especially as a job seeker, you're feeding it all this information, places I've worked, things I've accomplished, things I've done, and it's very easy for it to sort of create, right, what it is you feel the recruiter wants to see. I think to sort of get into, or sort of narrow down and remove the fluff, I think this is where, and that was an interesting, because I'm also thinking about it, when AI is saving you all this time from a recruitment perspective, what then do you use that time for to get this good hire? Because you sort of have to think of better ways to evaluate these candidates. And I think some of the things you can think of doing is, I think they're very underutilized. I know we've used them before at Peleza, but again, not to the full scope. I think case studies really go a long way. And I think because what is the challenge of AI? The challenge of AI is it's making a lot of people not get into critical thinking. Because I feed, it gives me, I need to do very bare minimum, and it gives me all this information. And that's why you realize when you're bringing in people, one of the skills they're lacking is just critical thinking. And I remember for a lot of us who've gone to, in when you began your undergrad, there was a unit called critical thinking. I'm not sure if they do
Common
it.
course.
Common, like everyone had to do it. What is it because they understood as you're now getting into this new phase of your life, it's like they were sort of showing you how to think. I'm not sure if that happens anymore, and if it does, I don't even know. Maybe it's happening through AI. Go and read on something. And I think that's what we need to bring back. A case study, as much as someone could still try and rely on AI when you give them such a task, I think there are things that will come out. There are things you can be able to pick out and say, and you're able to see, oh, this is actually someone's initiative. Because things like problem solving, as much as you may be having a situation and you run to GPT and tell it, help me get a solution. Most of the time, the solution will not be 100% geared into line with the current exact problem you're dealing with, right? It will have loopholes, and that's why you're able to pick out this person just relied on AI to give me a solution and work on this case study, or you can be able to actually see, and even personality. I think personality also shines through because you're able to pick up how different people are. There are people who are very aggressive, there are people who are agile, flexible. In the presentation and in the case study, I think you're able to pick that out. And again, depending on the role, you can also have sessions. I remember there's a time we recruited for a sales role, and one of the things we needed them to do was prepare. And when part of the interview is you need to come and do like a pitch for us, because you'll be a salesperson, you'll be pitching our product. So pick a product and come and pitch, as compared to I bring you in, right? And of course I'll train you and everything, but then 3 months in, there's some skills that are very hard to teach. Something like confidence. If you just don't, you can try, but if from within the person is not confident, then you'll not be able to translate and have them become what you're looking for. But in that session, someone comes in and they feel they already know I sort of have to present myself. Again, as much as you can do coachings and everything else, as we are speaking right now, even if we're rehearsed, there are things that just come out through. My personality will come through. You can get the bubbliness, you can get the fun. Those things are very critical, and those things tie up to it's like attitude. And one of the most important things when you're hiring, I believe, you look for is that. So that cannot be brought out by all these other generic and traditional tools we're talking about. You do your case studies, that will come out. You do your presentations, that will come out. If you're able to do simulations, again, it depends with the role. I think some roles would be easier to do simulations for than others, right? So for those roles where you're able to put, because simulation is you literally put me in that environment and you put me in that exact situation, and I have to figure my way out. If you're able to do that, then I think there's a lot you'll now be able to pick out from a candidate, and those are the very important skills that don't get them on paper. It's not about your previous employer, it's not about your education level, it's just about you.
And just to speak into it also, simulations also AI can create it for
Yeah.
where you're creating that entire office environment seated from wherever you are, and you're able to simulate whatever you need that candidate to be able to do, and you're able to see how will they deliver on the day to day. So it's actually possible, and I think we are coming to that.
Definitely.
We are definitely coming
I think
to
it's
that.
very, very powerful because at the end of the day, you get to see someone in their element.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Okay.
True.
Right. John, again, back to you. COVID happened, threw us into remote working, and with that came a lot of remote interviews as well.
Correct.
The world has also become a global village where I can hire anywhere, right? And the job will still get done. And again, of course, with now in the age of AI, interviews are happening remotely. And with remote interviews, the other thing that has also come up is with remote interviews, that the other thing that we've seen is that there are AI tools that are creating deepfakes that take on my face, take on my voice, and you can literally be able to interview someone you're thinking I'm interviewing Joy, but at the end of the day, it's an AI replica of her. So how do we begin to then pick out authenticity from that, right? Whole entire especially when it comes to remote interviews. How do we begin to know that this is a real person? Because I feel like the line is really thinning between what is real and what is AI increasingly, and it's becoming better.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. I think we've seen it on social media.
Yeah. Even our government was
Yeah,
part of it. Duped.
I actually saw a giraffe picking a person. I'm like, who has seen that?
You saw that
And I'm
video.
like, does a giraffe really have teeth?
Yeah.
But anyway, I do agree. It's really getting thin. However, I think, you need to think like a candidate also. And that's why I said that time that you're really saving, you need to really think differently. Think like that candidate and what they're trying to do. Also, open the tools by yourself also during the interviews. As you ask questions, you'll be able to see.
Yeah.
And AI, there are certain questions AI can't help you, especially competency-based questions, especially if you have internalized the role that you are looking for. Or simulations. Tell us of a situation where you are able to this, or tell us of a situation in which you are able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or what do you think about such things? But definitely AI can answer certain questions, and you'll be able to tell. During remote time, I would also open mine also on this other end, because I knew candidates are also looking.
Yeah.
And you really don't want to focus on whether they are using AI or not.
Yeah.
It's entirely on you as a recruiter to be able to judge. And authenticity is something that you can't really fake. I like what she said. It comes with the personality, everything else. If you are alert, attuned, awoke, wherever, then you'll be able to tell that that the story is flowing. And that's why writing notes is really critical, because when you get to another stage, you'll be able to see consistency. Yeah, but that one who's trying to beat the recruitment, to a certain extent, very few are really good. But also another level should be able to sieve out some of these element, what do you call it, opportunities that they use to do that. Yeah, that will be, at times you need to really create a simulation. Invite them. If that's not possible, create a simulation in an online setup, and
Right.
it will be done.
The same.
It will be done.
Okay, interesting that you've captured that in terms of simulation. So our results are back from the poll that we did earlier on. And 44% of us have said that lack of objective data-driven tools to predict performance or behavior is what we are struggling most with. Right? So that means indeed there is a gap there. That when we start looking at it from that perspective of simulations and what else other tools are out there that we can begin to use for data-driven decisions. Yeah, so clearly spot on.
And I think also when you're creating that post, as she said, that job advert, you need to design it in such a way that you're also collecting data that possibly you need to make decisions, basically. That's what comes to that. But also, again, you're real talent. You don't have time to really. That's true, Sheila. They don't have time. Then you see very brief one-pager CVs. Yeah. When they come in, they are like, wow, doing the job, fantastic. Those are what we call the silent talent. Really very good. And those are the ones that we really like. And very rare to find.
All right. Let's switch up a bit, and I'll start with Joy. Joy, if you're to reduce hiring into 3 most important things that matter, what will they be?
Interesting. I think my first one is character, or maybe I should say attitude. There are a lot of things you can teach. There are a lot of things you can train. I don't think you can teach character or attitude. And I think it plays a very big role into whether someone is a good fit for your company or not. Right? And sometimes you'll have someone, they're a superstar, they're a performer, they're amazing. But when you look at their attitude, actually I said something very important. Can they fit into the culture, and it's both ways, right? It's what they find, what does the environment look like, but then what are they bringing into the environment?
Sure.
Can be both ways. Sometimes an environment is terrible and someone good is coming in and it doesn't work, but sometimes the environment is amazing and then you get a toxic hire, and you told us the statistics, which were I think 10 times, right? Toxic hire. So that's interesting. So for me, I really think skills, and skills is also one of them. I think I'll intertwine them, right? Because skills have a very big role to play, because most of the roles we recruit for are very critical. You need to have certain skills for you to execute some of these roles, and skills will come from your previous employment. It will come from, sometimes your education is necessary depending on the role.
Sure.
Skills is amazing, right? It's like the mind of it, but then John mentioned something about this mind heart, right? Because what is the attitude of this person you're bringing in? Are they a team player? Are they positive? And sometimes those things look like they're very small, but I believe they're actually the big things. For example, you can bring in someone who doesn't have a positive attitude. You're like, okay, we can manage, but then in your team setting, you're very keen on problem solving. How do we get out of situations? How do we move forward? And then you have someone who is always, no, let's stay in this, things are not working, we made a mistake, who did this, right? Of course that will not work out. So I think, are they a team player? If your culture is keen on uplifting everyone, people working well together, and someone comes in, they're a superstar, but they cannot work well with others, they cannot take feedback. Some organizations like Peleza, anyone can give you feedback. Some people are like, no, you cannot give me feedback. Some people have an issue with management, yet they're performers. Depending on what is important to you as a company, I think you cannot underscore attitude or character. So attitude, character, skills. And I think the last one I would say is your past performance record. Especially if you're hiring for an experienced role. Entry level, it's okay. And that's why you say entry level, you can train. You just need a good attitude, right? And teachability. There's nothing you can't teach. But if you're looking for an experienced role and an expert role, your previous and your past employments, they speak a lot. Why? Because as you said, we are creatures of habit.
Sure.
One of our former presidents used to say, you cannot suddenly become very clever, right? There has to be a track record of what you can or have done.
Yeah.
So if I go back, and the thing is, we are also aware that some employers sometimes may be skewed and may be biased, and they may want to give a bad report of you. But any seasoned HR who understand ethics you can be able to decipher and know, okay, maybe this employer had an issue with this employee. You can be able to pick out some personal issues that may lead to a bad report, but you can also be able to pick out things that are factual. So if I see over the course of your employment, I can see your performance, it's speaking through, then that is already speaking to how, because then that means when I bring you on board, I already know you're a performer. And if you don't perform in my company, then I also need to start asking myself questions about my company, because most likely it's not a you problem, it's now a me problem. So I think those are the three things I would focus on if I had to narrow down.
All right. I feel like if I would summarize what you've said, and I think I look at it in terms of 3 doors, right? Or 3 filters that you have. And the first filter is from a competency perspective, that is on skills, right? That you have the background, right, to be able to do the job. And I know sometimes people wonder, why do we have in, what do you call it, a post for a job, why do we have bare minimums and where you say degree must be, it's a requirement, right? And sometimes it's because there are things that you'll be taught in a degree course of 4 years, right? That probably we have not been taught in a certificate course, right? And that matters, that because that prepares you for the role. So just a quick insight for those who may have never asked or never known why some of these things are required. So competency filter, door 1, right? If you meet the competency, you have the background, the skill set that is required, the technical capability, because some roles are very technical, right? Today I cannot begin to say that I can do engineering, right? I have no technical background of that. And then looking at it from a past performance perspective, right? Again, if you're a new entry level, no problem. Performance can be evaluated as you go along. But then for someone who has had, experience before, then you want to check and verify that past performance. And lastly, the culture filter. I think the one that we know culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And at the end of the day, culture is influenced by the character of the individual, right? So again, with these three things, I believe when we get these three things right, we can be able to truly predict the performance of this candidate. And I want us to look into each of these three filters. So let's start with the competency filter. And competency really is what's it's really what you can do, right? So I'll start with you, John. So what real world evidence can HRs actually use to validate that candidates can do a job?
Very good question. Because when you talk about recruitment, I was just listening to her and I'm like, recruitment is more of a calculated risk. Cindy?
too.
And if you do it well, it's calculated. Because you're trying to minimize the risk, because there's no perfect candidate. Even us, we are not perfect employees, really. But irresponsible risks or blind risks is where you are all in. So some of the tools for calculated risks could be the type of questions you ask. Very, very important. They need to be quality questions. Because prepare, even if there are 3 good ones. You'd rather have 3 or 2 good questions rather than have 10 horrible questions. Like one of the questions that I really I don't like asking is tell me about yourself. Or else I have your CV. Yeah. Instead of just you can flick it and say, I notice in your CV that you like this. Tell me more about that. You see, it's different. As opposed to tell me about yourself and this, so they'd have to really give you a rehearsal of what you have right in front of you. And you can imagine if it's a senior role. You get it? Yeah. So there's that. Also, number 2 would be you need to understand also what matters most to that candidate. It's a very, you need to, at the end of that interview, you need to know what really matters most to them. So that, because at times we tend to overlook that. And I like what you have said, because at times it's the other way around. You are thinking that you are recruiting the right person for the right culture, but at times it's the bad culture. You can have the right culture in your organization, but that department is another thing. Mini cultures. So there's a lot to think around. So there's also that aspect. Competency based also is around also like the simulations. Simulations bring out a lot. And also competency-based interviews. So during the actual interview, if you're really good, you'll be able to pick the personality, communication level, one scale of 1 to 10. Writing, you'll be able to pick a lot of things. You'll be able to pick also skill towards the job. They'll be able to speak to it. Let's say if it's recruitment and somebody is saying that during my recruitment, I implemented this as a result of this. As a recruiter myself, I should be able to relate with that. You know, or analytical, it should be able to speak into that, or give them some Excel. But I think Excel these days have gone away now. In AI as well, macros and all those other things. I can do for you that thing. So I think that HR dreads Excel. So there are so many tools depending. First, I think you really need to internalize. Even that's where I should have started. Where is your business going? And that's where you need to first know what type of skills do we have in the business, and where is the gap. Also in terms of culture, you also need to know what type of behaviors do we have short of that we really need to up, so that we are able to balance a lot of things. And that's why, again, if you look at it, HR is becoming more and more getting motivated employees. You really need to be attuned. Gone are those days where you come hang in a coat and the seat is just going round and round, So there's that. I don't want to bore people with that, but understanding the strategy, the direction, and then now in the interview process, now being able to understand this department as finance, what are you trying to achieve? Are you guys automating? Yes. What are you automating? So what does success look like in this role?
Yeah.
Okay, when that, it's easy. Candidates usually ask that questions, but I think as an interviewer, it's a question you need to have way before you enter that interview room. So that, and then now after that now is being able to balance everything else. There is a space for background checks. I do agree, because people have gone to a lot of length to really get a job, where you've gotten really good candidates but get disappointed when you see a fake degree certificate.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, that's why we are told HR. So
It's a
you,
good candidate.
yeah, at times you're told as HR you'll not go to heaven. Huh? But this candidate has resigned, but they gave you a fake degree certificate. Well, that's a criminal offense by itself.
Yeah.
And again, patterns. You know, if you can fake a
Yeah.
degree, then you can fake a lot of other things. You know. So again, it's to what extent? So evidence for me, it's more of the data also as well, in terms of you need to understand what you are looking for as a business, from a personality perspective, from a skills perspective, because skills are critical. Because you can't say you're looking for an analyst and skills are not important. How will they deliver? Yeah, because personality will not deliver that.
Yeah.
So so it's a balance of the three, and knowing how to put the right weighting on all the three. Yeah. Because also mindset is also important. Ability to learn and retain and apply whatever you've learned.
Yeah.
You see, because again, you can be very talented, but you don't want to learn. You see, so it's a balance of mind at times, the personality, which is the heart, and also when we go to the skills, because we tend to rely on our experiences to really be able to deliver on our current roles.
Yeah.
So that's a tool by itself that we all carry along with, and nobody can take away from you.
Yeah.
And if you are a skillful recruiter, you should be able to read the room and be able to tell whether it's a deep fake or an original.
There's some nuances.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just a quick follow up to that though. Especially on the academics, right? We've even seen it in our public domain, right? Where the rate at which academic certificates are being forged is alarming.
Yeah, true.
Right? It's really alarming. But then the question begs, I forged my certificate, but I am an amazing candidate. Like I am, when it comes to performance, I am amazing. Right? So why not just go ahead with this candidate? They're an amazing performer.
I think what you're just describing is what we call a good thief. A good thief. I don't know whether that exists, but really, again, we are just talking about the loss ratio of fraud here, which is actually real. 5% of our revenue is lost, and I think it's actually more.
It is.
It's actually more because again, it starts from there. If you really can fake a certificate, there are other lengths that you can actually go also as well as an employee, in so many other ways. But also again, according to the law of the land, it's illegal. I don't think it's right, because you're putting yourself at an advantage, knowing very well you didn't merit it. And then again, getting a way out of it, getting your way into the room. Because I've been in situations where a candidate who does not have a degree, but they're qualified and they have the certifications, for me that's equally important. If you are fully certified as HR, let's say HR PK, and you don't have a degree in HR, I think you can do the job. I believe you can do the job. Because I think now we are moving towards certifications are becoming the new masters. I'm sorry, degree people, but masters people, but it's the reality. It's a reality where being certified is really becoming more and more important. And it's speaking because you really don't have to fake that degree. Start it, say you're in year one, and then now amplify the rest of the areas that you really are good in. And that's why for me I always say I don't overlook somebody because of a degree.
Correct.
I think for me it's skills is important, And then let's come into the interview. We look at that talent, whether you have it, whether you got it or not.
Yeah.
I think to add on that, it's of course dependent on organizations and what you find is key for you. The organizations where they just swift through. If you don't have, for example, they've said a degree is mandatory. If you don't have it, then it's a problem. That is one of the ways of shortlisting. Then you're out. But then if someone is so good, because I've experienced that, someone is so good at the job, but yet they faked this one certificate. So what that shows, they failed the first test of integrity.
Yeah.
We don't know what this person is capable of doing, and it could sometimes just be not their fault. Maybe someone started, they were not able to finish because of money constraints and all that. But then you fail this first. I know most organizations have integrity as a core value, so this is the first thing you failed. In as much as we are okay, maybe your performance is very good, but there's this value that we're holding on to that you're not just big on, and of course it can translate to other things. So it also kind of depends.
Right.
And have you noticed at times even that
They're
guys
the best.
without degrees, and they're really the best
That's
performers that you
amazing.
have.
Yeah, true. True. Which takes us to the performance filter. So Sheila, what behavioral indicators have you seen consistently that can predict a candidate's performance, right? That they will be able to either thrive or struggle in a role?
I would start with, of course, what we're looking for in terms of what are these performance indicators we've put, and then does this person, based off their experience, are they bringing that on board? If it's key for that role, are you able to sift through the CV and tell that yes, if it's a sales role, they've managed to maybe move the sales of the company from 5 million to 10 million, for example. That is already a track record that you can, of course, swift through and say that this is good, but of course it has to be verified also, because we've said we're putting our best foot forward. There's the need for verification based on performance. So that is one. The other one is of course how quick this person also settles on the role, and the issue of what they're bringing to the role. I think for me, top of mind, those are the two. I don't know if anyone wants to add on that.
And I think it's a bit difficult to answer that, because I think it borders having a god complex. Because even with the best tools, at times, I like the way she said it. There are so many other factors that can make an individual not really perform. It can be personal. Either there are changes in their personal lives, loss of life, or a lot of things. It can be a team member really frustrating, or the manager really becoming the manager, the boss, or also really we never really factored that. You see, we always look at it from it's the employee to fit, the candidate to fit into the culture. What about the culture fitting into the life of that candidate? Because also that also influences that. Also the season in which the business is in, a lot of factors can influence that. So again, calculated risks comes in.
It is an investment. Investments are calculated risks.
And I think that it's an interesting question because it doesn't have a very clear answer. And I think some of the things to also consider, because something I also learned, and I think a lot of HRs need to change that mindset, is because even when you're looking to give someone a job, right, it's a two-way street, right? It's a give and take. For a long time, old school, I think a lot of things have changed. A lot of employers would look it as though I'm doing a favor, I'm doing the job seeker a favor, or if you're my employee, I'm doing you a favor. But I think that is such a wrong way to look at things, because because there's value that the employee is bringing on board, and that's why you're doing the things you're doing to take care of them as an employer. And I think once you see things from that perspective, and I think it also plays into that respect, that it's going both ways. And one of the things I've also been very key to implement, even when I'm having interviews, is to also mention and let the candidate know you're also interviewing us. You also need to ask yourself, are we a good fit for you? What do you say? We always think, the employee needs to come and fit in. Sometimes the employee is also doing an interview, and you need to realize that even as a HR, and they're asking themselves, is this a company I really want to work in? And they'll pick up things in that interview. And sometimes a candidate, you may be like, I don't really think this is the right fit for me. And yet you thought you had selected them and said, this is the one we want. And I think when we look at it from that point of a relationship, it's sort of, are we both getting into this because we want to be into this? Because it's like a relationship. Or is it an equally yoked where you're feeling you're doing me a favor and me I'm feeling desperate, so I can't, you take advantage of me? I think when you also step back and realize the candidate also has that role. They also can say, based on what I've seen, I don't think your culture is a good fit for me. Based on, maybe some of the ways. And you'll notice very good employees, there are those questions they'll ask you. If for me, I always say, if you give someone a chance to ask you questions and they don't ask you a question that leaves you thinking, because that plays into a big role. Someone who really wants to work with you, they've taken the time, and they'll ask you some hard questions. Sometimes you may not even have the answer to those questions, and you're like, okay, they leave, and you're like, oh wow, that was something I need to look into. So I think that also it really communicates, and I think also lastly, someone who's willing to be vulnerable. And I think that's the role, that's where AI cannot come in. I think as an interviewer, again, one of the things you said, we've changed, right? Again, old school ways were intimidation. In an interview, you're intimidating, you're taking charge, you're aggressive, and you sort of want this person to cower down. And again, I think times have changed. Right now, a lot of us, when we're having interviews, it's a conversation. We're on equal footing. I just want to hear, I want to hear about you. I'm learning more about you. And you set the tone also for vulnerability. Because I think one of the, I'll call it a red flag, especially if someone is presenting as such a good performer. And yes, the track record looks really good, but there's nowhere in the interview where there's vulnerability. So, for example, you could ask someone, based on, if I'm to go back to your previous employers, right, what would they say are some of the things you need to work on? And I've had people say nothing. And I'm like, do you think human beings are perfect? No. So are you perfect? No. But then if you have nothing, because again, it's ego. That means you think you're good to go. What does that mean? It means when you come into my organization, you're not teachable, you're not flexible, you're not willing to learn. So, and if there are no moments of vulnerability, and even what you mentioned, right? Sometimes maybe someone has run late for the interview, and sometimes people will open and be very, very vulnerable, say, oh, this just happened, I'm sorry, and I think once you sort of have that conversation, that's how you read into someone's personality, you read into their character. And I know for sure AI cannot replicate that. Yes, it'll take on a huge chunk, but that personal sort of exchange, I think that also plays a big role.
True.
On the last filter, which is culture. So Joy,
Yeah.
what evidence can HR use to understand a candidate's true character?
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, because character can either strengthen or weaken the culture of an organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question because you have very few interactions with this person, and you're expected to, right? You're expected to pick out the character. So eliminate the paper, the CVs, how do you, in those interactions, pick out character? I think one of the ways is, especially when you go back and you look at the previous employers, depending on how you do your verifications, you want to find, you're seeking to find out this is professional character. Again, to be very clear, we are not talking about who you are as an individual, it's as a professional. When we look back, what does your former, work experience look like from a character perspective? And these are things that very quickly and easily come up, but I think a lot of people don't pay attention to. So, for example, even a simple question, let's say promotions, demotions, that already will speak to your character. Disciplinary, have there been any disciplinaries? That already is speaking into, right, your character. A team player, are you able to work well with others? And you ask people those questions and they answer them so lightly. When you ask someone, oh, are you a team player? I don't think I've ever had anyone say no.
Everyone says yes.
Everyone says yes.
Yeah.
But really, when you get into the intricacies, what does team player mean? And when you're now speaking to either former employers and you're doing these verifications, there are things that will come out. Integrity, right? You mentioned let's say someone is in the procurement department. How do they go about that process? You have things like gifting policies and all that. Because I'm the leader, am I able to flex some of these policies? Do I take them seriously? So these are some of the things. They may look as though they're very small, but when you're going back to 3, 4, depending again on the level of experience, you're able to pick out someone's character, even in performances character. Because if someone is a good performer, if someone is able to meet their targets, that speaks to my character as a person, right? I like to start things and finish them. I like to see things through. I'm a problem solver. So when we talk about performance, it's not always just about, sometimes it's not even about you've 100% met your targets. There's more to it than meeting your target. Sometimes it's you've come up with an innovation, you've come up with a better way of doing things. You changed an internal process, you gave us feedback that it may not look like the superstar employee, you may not, from that perspective, but when you're having these conversations with former employees, these are things will now speak into a character, and this person is, they're innovative, they're keen for us to do things differently. So I think that's one of the ways to pick out character. And I think the other one I already mentioned, having that personal, when you're having that interview, you need to give room for someone to literally be a person and be vulnerable and be personal. And I'm not saying ask them personal questions, right? It's a very also fine line where you're not probing, or someone also feels like you may actually make a decision because I've given you information about me that could be used as bias, right? Because, for example, when it comes, let's say, to things like even do you have kids, marital status, we know how that plays with different genders, how it's interpreted. So you also want to be very careful when you're opening that door. What is your intention? And your intention needs to be, I just want to be able to establish who this person is, but then don't use that information to sort of now kick someone out or sort of use it as a bias.
All right, thank you for that. We actually do have questions from the audience. And the first question is, how do I recover from a bad hire? I sometimes feel like I failed to deliver in my role as HR. Sheila, would you like to take that?
Yes. I know it's a bad feeling because I've experienced that, but I think it's going back to the drawing board and just asking yourself, what is it that you wanted to attract, and then what is it that you've gotten, and how you can move from there. It's a matter of just going back, accepting, yes, it has not worked out, but then what are the lessons you're getting from that, and then finding ways to change that. I think that's the strategy. But it does happen, and it has happened to most of us.
I think it's happened to all of us, really. So first thing,
and also just looking at when you did that recruitment, that's why I said just try and document. Look, was it the advert that we advertised and this candidate we've gotten? Where's the mismatch? Where did we get it wrong? Is it the team aspect? Is it the culture aspect? You need to define the problem first. If you haven't defined the problem, then it becomes difficult to really address the right answer, getting the right answer. Yeah, but it's normal. It's a good lesson to just really make you, bad hires also make you a very good recruiter.
Yeah.
It makes you a really good recruiter. Yeah.
All right, and then there's another question. When agent hires clashes during doing background check screening, what do you drop first, and what should not be dropped no matter the agency? I think this speaks to many a times when you're at the point of hiring, we want to bring this person like yesterday. There is pressure from the business. Everyone wants this person to join, right? And you have to do a background check. So at the end of the day, what should you... how do we balance this?
I'd like to speak to that because, again, we've all experiences, and even I knowing, about background checks and everything, I would be keen to say that I've also made that mistake where, due to the time constraint, you feel the pressure to want to bring in someone before the background check is complete. We've actually done that era where the background checks were in process, but we need progress, but we needed to bring in the candidates, and we brought them in. And unfortunately, when the background checks were done, we found information that we could not just ignore, right? And that meant, of course, as much as the offers are conditional, it's not a good process because the person had already resigned. You had brought them in, they have a job, and then 3 days later, you're letting them know, oh, we have rescinded our offer. There were a lot of intricacies. It was a really bad position to be at. And even as a HR, I think what you cannot drop, no matter what, you cannot drop a background check. Because the price you will pay for that, it's really a very hefty price. Because the question is, would we have found out that information and ignored it and said, oh, because we hired this person, let's just proceed? we don't know what the repercussions would have been to the business, to the team, to the culture down along the line. So I would say you cannot drop a background check. And I think it's also, yes, as much as agents, we all get, you're like, oh, you need to fill this position yesterday. Remember, when you do a bad hire, no, you're not going to blame it on the timeline. You're not going, oh, but you told me to bring you someone in 5 days. You're the one who's in control of your process. So as HR, you need to say, this is my process. These are some of the steps I follow, and these are my non-negotiables. Because again, you need to sort of draw a very hard line. So that if things go wrong, then who takes accountability? Usually it's the HR. Yeah.
And I agree with you, because if you look at it, it's you won't blame the agency of the recruitment, because if agency becomes your key focus, then what happens is that recruitment, you can easily spend 10% of your time doing autopilot recruitments, and then 90% of that time be used by the hiring manager managing the wrong talent. Yeah, so at times you push it back to the business, tell them to pick what they want,
What's important.
what is important,
Yeah.
and you try and find a win-win situation that really addresses the agency and also addresses the right talent. Yeah.
And managing that can be draining. Can be very, very draining. John, this question is directed to you. Top employer in Kenya, 4 years in a row. We want to know, right? The audience wants to know, how have you maintained this? What are the secrets?
I think I'm fortunate enough to work in an organization that focuses on employees.
Yeah.
And not just employees, but motivated employees is a key focus. We have understood the key to our results is motivated employees, because a motivated employee and an engaged employee will show up to work, not to work, but to just have a great day every day in the office. And being able to create a great environment it's not the HR, it's not my responsibility as HR, it's collective. It's a win-win, making the business and our colleagues are really great colleagues to be able to understand. A great environment is created by you and I. It's not a HR responsibility. It's you and I, and especially as managers, we take the hardest responsibility in terms of getting motivated employees. And I've seen that really working really well, because the buck ends with me and my fellow colleagues in terms of leadership, where we collectively take responsibility in terms of getting motivated employee, where we are really keen on how we train, how we give feedback, how we motivate. It's designed because a motivated employee is an all-rounded employee. What motivates Sheila may not be money, maybe our medical benefits, maybe the other benefits, maybe just dropping a card to her, or the business remembering that it was Sheila's birthday yesterday.
Yes.
I've seen some of these small, they look small, but it matters a lot. So it's just getting the small things right, getting the basics of HRs just right. Basics is recruitment, coaching, all those things. Just getting the basics right really works, and consistency matters also a lot.
Awesome.
You're learning.
Yeah, awesome. It is a learning session, so we are all learning. Thank you for that, John. As we wrap up this session, one last quick fire question to all of us is, if you're to redesign hiring from evidence, right? Only evidence, using just evidence, what will that one data point? Okay, let me talk about 3. I think 1 is too limited, right? 3 data points that you would absolutely check.
I think you need to define the data points, because at times I think we rely heavily, and agree with you, with gut feeling, where we enter an interview. Do I really like you? From the onset, from when you shake the hand, and then now it's about
they open the door.
Yes, exactly. It's about now the candidate proving that they are really good for the job. You see, again, the biases that comes in, that checks it. You need to really be clear on what are you looking for. You need to create that data, because it's possible. If we are saying mindset, ability to learn, okay, that informs the type of questions you ask. And
Yeah.
you just really need one good question,
Yeah.
and that will answer a lot of things. And you'll be able to create data around it. And then the next step is to now confirm whatever they were giving you here into the next level. So different levels, I've seen higher levels measure. I've seen now entry level, when you're doing interviews, the first level of interviews are usually technical. They focus on technicalities. And then middle and higher levels is more of now personalities, mindset. Those are the things that are usually looked at. Yeah. You rarely will you find a CEO asking you very
Yeah.
technical questions.
Yes,
Thereafter,
for sure.
Yeah, you'll be seated on a couch, having coffee and just having a conversation. Yeah.
All right. Yes. Shane.
And how does I think about it?
John.
I think John has captured it very well. Maybe even negating what I'd intended to say. But I think it's very important that you've outlined what is very important and what is key for you. And I think I feel like it would go back to some of the things we've discussed, because even if you were to settle on data points, what are those data points measuring? I think we've spoken about character and attitude. I think we're all in agreement, right?
Yeah.
That's very vital. I think we're speaking about from a skills or a technical skills or capabilities perspective. Again, could be through employment, training, certifications. That's also very important. But then there's also from an integrity perspective, because and again, depending on the values of the company, because that's also underscores a lot. And for example, when we're having the conversation on education checks, right? We are all, a lot of us are in agreement. It's sometimes not even about that you have a degree. That's not what we're looking for. I'd rather you show up and say, I actually don't have a degree, but I can do the job, and this is what I've done, and I take that chance on you, as compared to someone who goes and presents sort of a false idea. Because I think integrity goes a long way, because in every day every employee is working for you, there is an element of integrity is how I show up to work every day. Most of the times, even when you have managers and supervisors and team leaders, they're not there with your employees every hour, every day. And right now in the age where no one wants micromanagement, just give me what I need to do and back off, and I'm going to give you the results. So how do you trust your employees to deliver? It's because they have their own self-integrity. They can self-govern themselves. Someone knows, if this is what I'm supposed to do, am I able to hold myself accountable before my supervisor even comes in to check? So I think if you define what is important to you as a company, then it will be very easy to check for it.
Sheila, your sentence?
I'd agree, of course, with the two, but I also feel like now the aspect of doing background checks comes in terms of just having data that speaks. If I'm doing background checks, for example, you've worked in 2 companies and there's consistency in your character, then that is a plus. But if they're all saying there's this issue of this person has to be supervised throughout, this person's character is questionable, they were found printing papers or things and things like that, then of course it's questionable. But data that indicates that yes, this person is like this, I think that's data to hold on to, and that's the way to go.
And also you need to be really careful also as a HR person, because there are some employers who do things. They write letters and then you wonder, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And I always believe in giving the candidate an opportunity to say their side of the story.
Yeah, correct. That's true.
The moment you do that, it's also, again, the thing we are speaking about, openness. And give them that opportunity to say it.
Yeah.
Because we live in a world where at times you just don't understand things. Somebody would write things, and if you listen to the other side of the story, even the story itself is not making sense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We have now come to the end of this session, and I feel like we've just scratched the surface in terms of bringing out the entire conversation. It feels like it needs to be a series of additional conversations that need to be had, still based on evidence-based hiring, data, background checks, etc. And I think the one thing that we want to start doing as Peleza is to begin to power these conversations, literally just provide a platform where we can have series of conversations around this very topic. So I think that's it. Unfortunately, our time is out today. Wish we had much more time. I know the conversation is quite amazing. It's been very practical insights, right? I have definitely learned a lot, right? As you're talking, I was writing my own notes on the side. I trust that we have also learned, and this conversation has been beneficial to you as well. And so that said, I would like first to thank this amazing panel that is here with me today. So thank you so much, John. Thank you, Joy, and thank you, Sheila, for according us of your time and your insights and your wisdom and just being vulnerable to share. So thank you for that. I hope when we call on you again, you will answer onto a call, right? Yeah. I think, well, that's it. We come to the end of this session. I just want to point out two things actually as we wrap up. So, first thing is we don't want to bring up a conversation and we cannot give you a practical tool that you can start using as soon as tomorrow. So, for everyone who signed up, for sure, we do have your email. So, we'll be sharing with you a toolkit around character risk indicators that you can be looking at as you're doing your recruitment, your hiring. We again strongly believe that the future at Peleza, right? The future of hiring is verified talent for sure, because verified talent gives you data points that you can look at to inform your hiring decisions. And that is what we do at Peleza. I know we've talked about a lot about interviews and hiring and recruitment and AI, right? In case we don't want to be misplaced anywhere, we yeah. So what we are strong at and what we do is we help organizations to verify their talent, right? Across, we have access to about 47 plus countries in terms of data, and we help organizations across Kenya and Africa to do that those verifications. So, in case you are or needing of that, please don't get stuck. We are here to help and assist you with that. I think that's it. We come to a close of this session for today. Thank you, our audience, for again believing and trusting in us. We are putting up a poll, right, for you to give us feedback on this session that we've heard today. Would love to hear about that because we are very strong on continuous improvement. So we want to know what is that we need to improve on for this session. And that's it. Good evening. Good night, depending on which country that you are from. And it's interesting, we're in December, so Merry Christmas and a happy new year 2026. So thank you. Bye for now.
Bye bye.